from an outsider's perspective, if someone's sort of listening to this and doesn't really understand motorsport in general, like they might have seen F1, which is probably my extent. But what are the like different sort of professional categories? Like, are there three or four sort of paths that you can go down as a Kiwi, or are there a bunch more? Like, is Formula One like the pinnacle, or is it just a different category in racing?
No, I think you're right. Formula One is the pinnacle of motorsport and leads the way in many aspects in terms of technology and development, especially. There's also now the pathway that heads towards electric cars, so Formula E and E-Pace Touring Championship as well. And that's so the electric path, the Formula path, which takes you to Formula One or also to IndyCar. And then you also have your other direction, which is GT and prototype racing. So 24 hours Le Mans, total Spa 24 hour, and all these sorts of endurance races and also sprint races in GT3. So with the cars that I'm in at the moment, it's a GT3 car, so it's they're all production based. So the chassis itself is the same chassis that you'll find in your road car. So if someone was to buy a Lamborghini Huracan from the factory, it uses the same chassis. But to an extent, that's kind of as far as it goes, apart from the chassis and the engine, and then from there they're developed into the proper GT3 factory built race cars.
How niche are those categories? Like, obviously F1, there's only these 20 drivers in the world, right? And then everyone else is trying to compete for those spots. In like the GT3 and those more endurance ones, is there the same competition going on, or is there a bit is there more people involved?
It's a bit of a mixture, really. Formula One being so tight with 20 drivers only. There's many factors that come into play with that. Contacts, sponsorship, and that's really it. Just the funding you have behind you, and all of the drivers that make it into Formula One have one way or another been supported by somebody, whether it's family or a privateer, and that gets them there. At the moment we've got a couple of young drivers that are on their way in that direction, and Liam and Marcus, Liam Lawson and Marcus Armstrong. So they're both in Formula Two at the moment, and Marcus is backed by Ferrari, and Liam is backed by Red Bull. And for them, that's incredible to be with two of the biggest Formula One teams, and have them in your corner is pretty awesome. And a lot of pressure for them to perform, but they're in the best position possible to make it. That's for sure.
What like have you always been into racing? Like, what sort of got you into it early on? Were you born with a steering wheel in your hands, or how did it work?
Yeah, just about it. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, yeah. I was born into the world with the steering wheel in my hand. No, I started driving. I would have been about 2 years old when I first started driving, and the way it happened was I would sit on mum's lap, and we have the driveway at home is about 400 meters long, and when I could make it the entire way down the driveway without was sitting on mum's lap and steering the car. Obviously, I couldn't reach the pedals. I was pretty young. I could make it the whole way down the driveway without getting distracted by whatever trees and birds and whatever as you do as a 2 or 3 year old. I was allowed to have my first go in a go kart. So at 4 years old, I started driving a go kart at the kart track, and I was allowed to do one lap at the end of each club meeting. And I used to walk around with my race suit on for the entire day as a 4 year old. Pretty chuffed to be there with the helmet that was the size of my body, and do my one lap at the end of the day. And when I was 6 years old, that was when I started, got my race license, and was able to get behind the wheel of a go kart.
Was it in the family, like, or were you the first to sort of get involved in motorsport, or was it the old man to get you into it, or the brother? How did that sort of work?
Yeah, well, my dad has a business restoring classic cars and building race cars as well. So he's been involved in motorsport from a very young age. Mum and dad both met when they were one of them was 14 years old. I can't remember which one, and at a go-kart meeting. So from there, yeah, it's been in the family since even mum and dad were very young. My brother started racing before me. He's literally made his progress. Everything that I've done, he did 3 years before me, to the point where he stopped racing at the level that I'm at now. But yeah, he still knows how to steer a car. He beat me in the New Zealand Grand Prix at the start of the year, so I have to. Yeah, he's got one up on me at the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah, nice. What was the dream initially? Like, what we just trying to go fast and win races, or were you looking up to some idols at the time and actually thinking that this was a sort of suitable career path for you?
Yeah, for me, my idols since a very young age has always been Scott Dixon. I think for many Kiwi drivers, he's a bit of an aspiration, and he's a legend just about in motorsport now in the world with six IndyCar championships, Indy 500, and yeah, he's a very incredible talent and someone
He's
I've looked up to since.
he'd be New Zealand's highest paid sportsman, I think. Like,
Yeah, I think so.
he's up there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you're probably right. Actually, being in America as well, it's yeah, a lot of money thrown around in sport over there, especially in Indy cars. It's quite phenomenal, really. What goes on in that sport. Scott McLaughlin being in there now as well. It's pretty awesome to have a couple of Kiwis performing at the top of or the pinnacle of American motorsport, and yeah, one of the biggest categories in the world.
Did you find like growing up in a small town such as Invercargill to be quite um to have quite like a negative or a positive influence on your career? Like, did you find, growing up in a town of 50,000 people at the bottom of the world to be limiting to your opportunities, or did you find that there was enough going on?
I think so. Maybe a little bit. Like there was definitely limiting factors to it. Um, when I started racing cars, and it was the car my brother raced, I dad, mum and dad sat me down and said, look, if you want to do this racing, you have to find your own sponsorship for it. It's too expensive for us to fund. We can help you wherever we can, but obviously financially is not really an option. So um, yeah, for me, after school each day, I'd go to school in the morning. I'd fill my backpack up with race proposals, and after school, I'd bike around. After my after school job, I'd bike around all the companies and just hand out proposals to every single company that I could, until I got a dollar. And I think it was like 400 proposals or something silly until I got
Wow.
my first. Yeah, so I got my first money, and then it wasn't easy from there. It was the same for about 3 or 4 years, and until I got some very amazing supporters on board that are still with me now, and Dale ITM and yeah, and some others also.
So initially, like, you did need that sort of financial injection, though, right? Like, what did a proposal look like? For if someone's finding themselves to be limited at the moment, like, how did you just build that confidence to just go and approach businesses um and know that, like, as you said, was it the first like 400 businesses or something you went to just all said no? Like, how did that sort of work? Did someone give you a template, or did you just sort of like just take rejection and just work from there?
Kind of a mixture of both, because my brother had been in a situation where he had to do it as well, and um, I don't think he was as good at doing it as I was. He was not he's not maybe as much of an outgoing person as I am. So I had a bit of a template from his proposal to go off, and I had to build it from there. But then from there, it was just kind of like, I remember mum came to me and I was like worried about doing it. Like, I was like, oh, I don't want to be going to companies and just door knocking. I don't, I'm not comfortable. And mum was like, well, do you want to race? And I was like, yeah, well, I do. So I didn't have a choice. So just, yeah, I literally just went up to, I remember remember going to a lot of the companies and just going in there, still visualize it, and walking in there as a 14-year-old and just being like, "Hi, my name's Brendon Leitch. Trying to put some money together to race in this championship, the New Zealand Formula Ford Championship at the time. And I was wondering if you'd be interested in having a look at my proposal." And I'm pretty sure that was my line for the whole time until I started getting somewhere with sponsorship. And it was just something simple like that, but having the courage to walk in there and do it, and maybe not being confident as a 14-year-old, but I guess just having the balls to get in there and do it.
Who were the first companies to really get behind you and support you?
The first one is one that's still with me now. It may be a
Oh,
different
unreal.
supplier, but yeah. So my first big sponsorship was from Ball ITM, and I remember sitting at school the day Dad texted me and said, "Hey, how would you like to have your car yellow and black?" And I was like, "Huh?" And I was really confused. I still remember sitting in the canteen at James Hargis when I got the message, and I was just over the moon. So yeah, ITM have been with me through my whole motorsport career. When I started the cars, it's a different. Oh, actually, no, Deal will tell me off for this. It's a different franchise. No, same franchise, different dealership kind of thing. So yeah, now I'm supported by Dale ITM, which is the 3 Auckland-based stores, and yeah, they've been with me for 6 or 7 years now, and just an extended part of the family for me.
That's awesome, man. That's cool how they've sort of gone through tough times and good times and stuck with you every step of the way. Was there any pressure to sort of drop what you were doing in this field and focus on getting a 9 to 5? Sort of in the early, I mean before COVID. We can go into COVID soon, but was there that pressure to if races weren't exactly going your way, or if results weren't going your way, was there any pressure at any stage just to stop what you were doing, or was the carrot always on the end of the stick?
No, the carrot wasn't always on the end of the stick, and I remember my first year in the Toyota Racing Series. It was like something happened at the start of the year, and I had someone helping me do sponsorship, and it was the only year that I wasn't supported by ITM, and they pulled the pin on me about 2 weeks or 3 weeks before the first round, and I'd committed to the championship, and it was horrible because they didn't find any money where they promised, and here's me left with the handful of bits and pieces that I had from small sponsors that stayed on board as I took the next step, and I was scrambling around to find sponsors for it, and got to the first round of the championship, managed to get enough money together to do it, and then the second round of the championship, I called Deb and said, "Hey, look, I'm racing in this championship and I'm really struggling. I just need a little bit of money to get through this round, some sponsorship, and I'll give you the side of the car for it." And so we went ahead and did it. She was amazing and said yes straight away. And it was the weekend that I put the car on pole and dominated the feature race, where the podium was P2 was Santino Ferrucci, who's now in IndyCar, and P3 was Lance Stroll, who obviously now is with Aston Martin in Formula One. And it was that weekend that was the turning point for my career, I think. And from then on, it's just, yeah, I've just been known as the kid from Invercargill.
So before that race, did you know, like, right, this is it, or did you just think, did the stars align in that race, or did you actually, consciously know, right, I need to get a result here?
It was a bit of a mixture. Like I always put pressure on myself, and I guess as an athlete, everybody has their way of coping, and I wasn't so good at it back in the early days of Wings and Slicks of Formula racing. But no, it wasn't like that. It was just part of for me at that weekend, it was just part of the grind. And I knew that I always needed to do well, and I was just going to be on the back foot, and I knew that I couldn't do anything about it. So there was no point complaining, just to get on with it. And it was that weekend that I kind of just put all the put all the bullshit aside and just went out there and gave it everything, and it all just pieced together. I had a great engineer that year, um, and a great team of people around me. It was perfect for my first year of Formula cars. I had some a couple of big shunts, which was part of the learning process, unfortunately. But yeah, we had some great results, and then the year after that, 2016, was against Lando, and came third.
Oh shit,
To him.
where's he these days? You know, he hasn't done much.
Lando. Oh no, he's done too much, has he? Yeah, McLaren Formula One. So yeah, definitely over the years I've raced with a couple of big names now. So it's definitely, I think the people that have been behind me from the beginning sort of knew that something was there, and yeah, definitely have wanted to explore it for a while, and it's not till present day where I guess we're getting to do that. So it's pretty exciting.
So how did you get this initial link over in Europe, and you know how long has that move been on the radar? When you know how long ago did those doors start opening up for you?
Um, 2019. So after the Asian Formula, sorry, not Formula, Super Trofeo Championship, I got an email from Marcel, who is the team boss of Motorsport that I race for now, and he said, "Hey, look, we've got an opportunity here for you to come over and do a test in Italy in the GT3 car with Lamborghini in their factory test car, and you know, it's all fully paid for. You just have to pay for your flights to get there." And um, within a week, I was on a plane and on my way over here for a day's test. It was insane. I flew over. I left Invercargill on Monday, and I was back in Invercargill on Friday. And in
Business
between that, I
class,
did
first class.
nah. It was multi pack. So yeah, cattle class back then. And yeah, we was crazy. Was in the country for 36 hours. Did a test with Lamborghini, and then a couple of weeks after that, had a phone call with them, and I should mention that I was only, I think it was 2/10 off the factory driver that was there setting the benchmark for us.
Yeah, what did
Um,
they test? Like you were there for 36 hours, and what did they look for? Did they look for like your skills technically, or did they look for your character as well?
I think it was just skills technically. Maybe my pizza eating abilities, and that the only thing I ate there for the 36 hours was pizza. So no, good times. But yeah, it was a very short test. There was 5 or 6 other drivers as well there. So I didn't actually get a lot of time in the car. I think that's probably why they were most excited about it. I think 10 laps, 2 5-lap runs around this track that this little track that was a test track I'd never seen in my life before. And on the final lap of the first run, I was 2/10 off, 3/10 off the factory driver, and who'd been to have done a million laps around there um, before. So they were pretty excited from there, and that's pretty much that was it. That was enough for them to see what they need to know, and from there it was yeah, the call, the email, actually, the email.
Because I remember like I think was it no, it must have been November or December 2019. Um, our career path kind of aligned. Like, well, we both got an offer to move overseas with our respective paths, and I was going to be based in America on the PGA Golf Tour, working for a New Zealand company over there, and you had a contract offer with Lambo. Um, Fast forward a few months, and COVID-19 hit. Um, I know personally, like I was over in Florida for 3 days as it was going to be the start of like a 6 or an 8 month stint over there, and COVID hit on TV, and all the sports leagues around the world started cancelling events and things, and we were on a plane back to Dunedin in New Zealand overnight. So like my sort of professional path was turned upside down for a bit, and what was the sort of implications on COVID on your career and like your contract offer in Europe?
Yeah, it was. was pretty chaotic. Yeah, for me it was December where we had that, and we're both moving overseas. It was exciting times, and then bags were just about packed. Just 2 weeks away from flying out. Contracts were signed, bills were paid, everything was ready to go. As in the same position that I'm in now, but it's a little bit better now than it was then, to be fair. But nevertheless, I was going to be moving over in March, and 2 weeks before I flew out, we were in lockdown. So that got postponed and postponed and postponed, and I was holding out hope about 2 months later, and then it just got cancelled completely due to so many things.
Like, having worked so hard and like having like something out of your control and out of everyone's control, like there was a lot of people struggling during that time, but in a sense had made it, or you had a really good door open for you, and to have some outside force like COVID or a global virus hit, a couple of weeks before you're actually going to move over, that must have been pretty hard to deal with.
Yeah, it was. If it was a sign to stop, there's ever going to be one, that was probably it. But I know it hit pretty hard, and for a while, maybe struggled a little bit with coming to grips with it all. But eventually came out the other side, and then the opportunity came back up again, and with a short amount of time, we decided to do it, and within about 6 or 7 weeks of coming over here, we'd sorted the deal out, and I was on a plane. So it it made it difficult last year, but also what I did last year in terms of racing, the races that I did in New Zealand definitely improved me as a driver in the kind of car that I'm currently in. And would I have done as good a job as I have over here so far already if it was to have happened last year with less experience? I don't know, but pretty thankful that it's kind of happened the way it has now. And
It's crazy how, like, the benefit of hindsight, you can look back and think, that's what felt like, you're like your world in a sense like crashing down around you, and sort of having to focus on other options, other paths, and then fast forward to where we are now. You are in Europe. You've been elevated to that junior driver position, and it's pretty incredible to see.
Yeah, thanks, mate. No, it's pretty incredible, really. I still have to pinch myself every day. I wake up and in the morning, I still work for the team over here for about 5 hours a day, and then the rest of the time is just training, and which is cool. Really enjoying it, and just a heap of running, and the gym's just opened up last week, so I'm looking forward to signing up and getting back in there. It's been a minute, so.
Yeah, so let's go into those discipline aspects of the role. Like, there's obviously a lot of restrictions around, like, driver weight and fitness and diet and all that sort of stuff. Can you go into more like specifics around what is actually required to you from a physical point of view?
Yeah, it's more so in Formula cars than GT cars. There's very, very specific driver weights. So I think it's 72 kilos, 71 kilos is optimum, and maximum you can be in a Formula car, because for every 10 kilos of weight after that is 0.3 of a second per lap. So 0.3 of a second per lap. You add that up over a 20 lap race or something like this, it's ends up being 6 seconds or something. So total race time, that's quite a lot. So it's equally as important, I think, in GT racing. But the biggest difference is that you're in the car for long periods of time, up to 2 hours at a time, even more in some cases. So the mental fatigue, the heat stress on your body, they're two of the biggest things I think personally.
How do you train for that? Or can you train for it? Is it just race fitness?
A little bit of a mixture of both. So some of it becomes race fitness and some testing that you do, some training it's difficult to work on some muscles when you're training, especially with the G forces and things like this. So around your neck, doesn't matter how much training you do, you still get in the car for the first time after a few months, and you get out of the car and you can hardly hold your head up for a few hours. So it's once you get around that, to be fair, for me, it's just I find that the key is cardio. So for me, a lot of running. I just enjoy getting out there in some fresh air. So yeah, run between 10 and 15 Ks a day these days. And
Yeah, I've been following your Strava, mate. I'm your number one fan on there.
yeah, thanks, mate. I get amongst it. It's good. I really enjoy it. It's especially at the moment. Maybe I sound crazy and to everybody else, it seems like that I talk to. I like the running in the heat is the best thing. So I'll make sure if the opportunity comes to run in the sun, I'll choose the run at 1 o'clock in the afternoon as opposed to 6 o'clock in the evening, just for the extra heat stress that it puts on your body. But also making sure I keep pushing as hard as I can as well. So always just trying to find ways to maximize it.
From a more like psychological point of view, is there ways to train your mind as well as your body? Like, how hard is it to stop comparing yourself to other drivers and instead like look at your own performance and just race against the stopwatch? Or do you find that is the perspective that you try and get, or do you have to, in a sense, compare yourself to the other drivers?
To a certain degree, you do, but it's a difficult one, and it is probably quite similar in many sports, that pressure that you feel. I've got a sports psychologist that I work with monthly, this year especially more than ever, also in 2019, who who really helps me. Work on him with not only in racing but life in general, and everything building up to a race event.
What's
Making
an
sure you,
example of him helping you? Like what would be a case of you going and chatting to him?
yeah, so just making sure that going into the weekend I'm in the right headspace. Like you said, comparing yourself against others is a big thing, big in every sport really. But for me personally, I just I want to be the best. So it's to try and make sure I get myself in the right mindset to so that in my own mind I know that I know I'm the best. But it's to try and convince myself that daily is difficult sometimes. If you have a bad day, it's pretty easy to tear yourself up. And I think we're all human, and we seem to tear ourselves down quite heavily sometimes, especially on a bad day if the stars haven't aligned. So for me, it's just making sure that no matter what happens, you got to back yourself all the way, and that's probably the most important thing for me personally, as well as a couple of other things on track. But
Where does that self drive and that determination come from? Is it the fact that you know that you are good enough on your day, or is it the fact that like you've gone through certain setbacks in your career so far, and you know that you can bounce back from these? Like what feeds that motivation?
yeah, it's a big mixture of things, I think. um I don't know. Yeah, like,
Or just wanting to keep a job?
yeah, no, not even that. No, I'm definitely not interested in the money at all. I love the thrill of it, and the speed, the competitiveness. It's just something that I don't think. I used to play football when I was a kid, but it only requires one ball. No, I'm just kidding. That's a bad joke. No, no, I used to play football when I was younger, and hockey as well, but they just didn't really give me the same rush at the time that I could get in the go-kart. And as I just got more into motor racing, it became even more. Um, I just really enjoyed it more and more, to the point where I'm a fully qualified mechanic as well. So that really helps in terms of the way you think about things when you're out there as well, and that mechanical sympathy that you have that most other drivers don't, and just trying to find ways really to set yourself apart from the other drivers, I guess.
What um sort of moving away from racing, like what's been Germany? You know, what's been like your experience like in Germany, as opposed to New Zealand? Like, are they similar countries, or are they different?
Yeah, like to a degree. It is a little bit. I'm living a little bit rural at the moment. It kind of feels as close to home as it could feel. I look out my window now and I can look across the paddock and see animals running around and things like this. So it's quite cool. But yeah, it's different in many ways. The bakeries over here, I think, are even better.
How's the coffee?
Yeah, that's not so good. Maybe I think they definitely got some lessons to learn in terms of coffee. But
Same in America, bro. It
yeah,
sucks.
yeah, it's a bit shocking, really. But look, I think if I'm over here long term, I think it's worth investing in a coffee machine. Maybe I can start a coffee shop up and show them how to do it. But I
You're gonna
think
have to learn some German before you do that. Do you know any phrases?
not much really. I can order a coffee, but that's about as far as it goes, and it's just a
How do you
couple of words. So
how do you ask for a long black? How do you ask for a coffee?
oh no, I just have to ask for coffee.
Right,
Um,
right, yeah.
oh mate, it's yeah, it's a very difficult language. I'm struggling. I wanted like I came over here with the mindset and the mentality that I would do it, but I'm finding it a lot more difficult than I thought to learn another language. It's a big ask. I don't know how Einstein learned like every language possible.
I mean, it's Einstein. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so I got a couple more questions. What would you sum up to be like your favorite, like your top three racetracks in the world? You know that they might not be the most um, glamorous or famous or anything, but what are your three favorite racetracks? You might have raced on them in the past. You might have not.
So my favorite track of all time is Spa Francorchamps. Francorchamps. I don't know how to say it properly, but
Where,
Spa
where,
in Belgium. Um, Incredible track. I've loved it for many years, and
what about
yeah,
it?
the just the challenge that it gives you. There's a lot of to start with. It's about 7.5 k's long, so it's a very long track. A lot of elevation changes, a lot of high speed corners, corners that require a lot of commitment, and yeah, they're the coolest tracks. The tracks that require the biggest amount of commitment possible, and having that trust in your car and your ability as well to have that car control to hang on to the thing. So Spa is definitely my favorite circuit. Pretty cool. Last couple of weeks ago, more than that now, about a month ago, I drove on it for the first time in the GT3 car as we did the shakedown for the car.
Did it live
Um,
up to your hypes? Like you've obviously
oh,
gone
mate, it
on
was
a simulator quite a few times, I imagine, but
it was even better than expected. Like it's um, in the simulator, it doesn't show the elevation so much, and it also feels a lot wider when you're there. It's much steeper in terms of the elevation, and it's also much narrower. Um, so it's even more difficult than I thought it would be. But it's awesome. It's a really cool track, and yeah, really hope and look forward and hope to racing there in the future. But fingers crossed for that. Yeah, so that's my favorite. Second would have to be a track in South Korea called Yanggam
no.
International Circuit, which is yeah, it's the it's the Korean Grand Prix track from 2010 to 2014, and it's just really fast. Three massive straights, a big high speed section, which I love. Lots of high speed corners, which require that commitment again, and then also like a street circuit style finish. And it was really long as well, the longest track that I raced on in Asia. So that was in the Super Trofeo and the Lambo, and top speed was 294, so it was proper fast.
Flying.
Yeah, yeah. And number three would be Motorsport in Canada, which is just a real old school fast circuit. And
Who
once
races on
again.
that now? What type of?
It's called Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, and they still use it for IMSA, which is the American version of GT World Challenge. So the GT3 cars, they even race prototypes and an LMP2 and LMP3 there. But I raced there in a Formula 4 car, so it was yeah, pretty gutless, 160 horsepower, I think. But still go pretty good because the car only weighs about 500 kilos. So definitely still a bit of fun, but I'd love to go back there in a
I'm pretty
rocket ship.
disappointed, mate. I'm pretty disappointed you didn't have Tiratonga, Invercargill, New Zealand on the list. You know, that's the
Tiratonga's number
OG.
4. It's number
Yeah,
4, mate. It's
it
number 4 on
deserves
the list.
deserves an honourable mention.
Absolutely, absolutely. What a crazy track
Um,
to
so I just want to get your thoughts. Like, who do you think is the next, other than Brendon Leitch? Who is the next like young Kiwi driver to watch? Like you know that like Marcus Armstrong and Liam Lawson are you know on track to be in contention possibly for Formula One. Who do you think will be the next like Kiwi driver to make it to the Formula One, or just to surprise everyone?
that's a that's a good question. I think it's like Liam and Marcus are both incredible, and Marcus is having a horrible start to the year this year, unfortunately, but I'm sure he's going to come back strong. Liam started off quite strong in the championship and he's had an interesting few rounds with some big highs and some big lows, but both equally as talented, I think, and both have the same opportunities to make it to Formula One. So, in my opinion, I think it's 100% one of those two will end up in a Formula One seat. Obviously, Marcus has already tested with Ferrari at their local circuit, which is pretty cool. So yeah, that's my one of my picks. I couldn't tell you which one of the two, but
But you just
yeah.
see like you know someone like Liam or going for Red Bull, like you just see like Alex Albon and how hard that they do treat that second driver, and how you know in any team that the second driver is often the one who is overlooked in a sense and has to be that team player. Um, you know, is that um, how competitive do you think it would be to get a Red Bull seat, or do you think it would be more realistic for them, or for any F2 drivers to shoot for those smaller teams initially,
Um,
and do like what George Russell was doing?
yeah, it's well, with Red Bull they have AlphaTauri as well, which is it's all part of the same family, really. At the end of the day, so for sure, if Lamb makes it in there, he'll be with AlphaTauri to start with, unless there's some miracle that puts it in the seat with Verstappen. But um, yeah, it's the second seat's always difficult, and at the moment in Formula One, I think it's pretty obvious that everyone can see anyone who's in the second seat's always playing second fiddle, and kind of just having to play the team game and that sort of thing. But I think it's a little bit different with AlphaTauri because they have, generally speaking, two young guns, and they're trying to give them equal opportunities, and they kind of just let them go all out. Over the years, it's always been incredibly competitive within that team.
It's also quite a lot of a smaller team, you know, compared to Red Bull. Like you see Pierre Gasly really struggle with Red Bull, and then he's sort of finding his own in that AlphaTauri seat. And a lot of people were just saying it was just less people around him. That's probably why he's flourishing more. But you know, who knows? It's incredibly cutthroat. Like getting back to your season, like what would make 2021 end and like successfully for you?
Oh, I think to win one of the 24-hour races that I've got coming up would be a pinnacle for me. Yeah, and would just definitely just cement my future in the sport, for sure. So yeah, that's my target for the next couple of races coming up. We have Portimao, which is in 4 or 5 weeks, and I'm just fizzing for that. I'm about to start prepping on the simulator soon, so getting into that, which is going to be really cool. And then there's one later on in the year, which we haven't announced yet, but yeah, it will be pretty exciting. And hopefully, if you're still in America, I'll be able to come visit you. Let's just say that.
Yeah, man, that'd be awesome. Do you have any plans on going back to New Zealand at the moment? Like, is this a fixed term thing, or do you think you'll be in Germany for the foreseeable?
Foreseeable future for sure, but over Christmas I'm going to come home. So after the last race, I'll come back and do the old quarantine. I think as long as yeah, unless Auntie Jacinda changes her mind and we don't have to for some reason, but I can't see that happening. So uh, yeah, end of November. So I have all of December and a bit of January, I think, in New Zealand with all our mates and family as well. So that'd be pretty cool. And then yeah, let's see what happens. There's some plans coming together for next year. It's looking quite promising, but I just don't want to count my chickens too soon. And you know, we're only one race in for my year this year, and it's pretty exciting. They're already trying to discuss and decide what happens in the future for Brendon Leitch next year within motorsports. So it's pretty exciting.
That's awesome, man. Well, congrats on the new role, and I hope we catch up in person soon. So, thanks for taking your time out to chat with me.
No worries, mate. Thanks for having me.